Champagne will not change, and that's good news because we have many ways to avoid that. Existing solutions to that, which are to adapt the picking dates, which are to adapt the winemaking techniques. I'm thinking, for example, the malolactic fermentation, which you may block and therefore obtain a wine which is more acidic. This may be a response to the relative loss of acidity due to the, let's say, warmer years due to climate change. So we already have a toolbox of winemaking techniques that will allow to counteract this trend. And also every vintage is different, and 80% of champagne is non-vintage brut. So we will be blending years as we've been doing for 300 years, but maybe a more acidic year will basically balance the less acidic years. And by using the reserve wines, you also play with the composition of the cuvée in order to maintain the house style. That's the current response with a toolbox of techniques. And then, on the longer run, we have a research and development program to create new grape varieties for Champagne. And we will cross the existing grape varieties that are light in Champagne, Meunier, Pinot Noir, and Chardonnay, with some other varieties that carry a natural resistance to some disease and that are also selected to be slower in the ripening and to keep a higher level of acidity. So the objective for us is to find new grape varieties in 15 years that will both ripen slowly, keep their level of acidity, but also be more resistant to the disease like mildew and oidium. So we will keep the Champagne style, but at the same time we will continue to decrease the use of pesticides in the vineyards. The style of Champagne today is of course not exactly the same as 50 years ago due to climate change. And of course, we were not there 50 years ago. I wasn't, and you were not, drinking champagne. And we don't compare. And if we did compare, the champagne from 50 years ago is 50 years old. So you can't really tell. But of course, the style is slightly different every year. What you're talking about, I think, shouldn't be qualified as a change in style. It's more diversification. It's innovation. Is people looking at, let's say, 25 years ago, people were looking down at rosé like, oh, this is not real champagne, and it's just a fad. People will forget that in a few years. And now it's more than 10% of the market. So it's been an innovation, and there's more innovation because now rosé is not only a blend of white and red still wines that then is fermented again according to the method champenoise. You also have the Rosé de Saignée, which opens the palette of rosé in terms of color, in terms of taste, in terms of food pairing, and that's only one example. People are playing with dosage, people are playing with malolactic, non-malolactic, and also blending malo and non-malo wines. Wood has been back. Champagne has been equipping itself in stainless steel tanks during 50 years, and now wood is back. And you don't necessarily switch back from steel to wood, but you will have different cuvées, or you may blend wines fermented in wood and wines fermented in stainless steel, plus the other innovations coming up like the terracotta eggs and things like that. So I think it's more diversification than change in style. By definition, Champagne carries the weight of this history, the association with the coronation of French kings, from this to Beyoncé, because Beyoncé taking a bath of champagne is imitating Marilyn Monroe taking a bath of champagne, who was imitating Sarah Bernhardt taking a bath of champagne, and so on and so forth. Yes. So in a way, it's part of the DNA of Champagne to be associated with history, with culture, and you can't look at the wine just as a wine, because this wine carries an aura of culture and history, and this has created symbols and basically occasions, as people say in marketing, occasions of consumption, weddings and celebrations and so on, and this is proper to Champagne. When a sparkling wine arrives on a podium of Formula One, or when you baptize a boat with another sparkling wine than Champagne. You're just following up on Champagne and imitating Champagne, but it's the occasion for Champagne because it was created by Champagne, around Champagne, with Champagne, and we can tell the history of the birth of this ritual, right? But all the other wines have their room. Champagne is only 10% of the sparkling wines of the world, so the other ones are fine. Of course, there's experience and knowledge of the land in an extremely precise way, but it's also constant improvement. It's not only piling up more knowledge, it's also disrupting from time to time. Champagne started to crush black grapes and make white wines out of them, but the concept of Blanc de Noir has evolved, and today we are not clarifying the wines the way we did 50 years ago, and not even the way we did 15 years ago. I mean, the cold of winter was clarifying the wines 1 century ago. Chemistry and technical progress was of a help 50 years ago, and now we are back to a mix of temperature and softer winemaking techniques, or softer filtration by membrane filtration as opposed to older school filtration. So it's more a tradition of innovation based on the fundamentals being that Champagne needs to be a clear wine that is white, and also it's a matter of blending again. This knowledge, extreme knowledge of details of the terroir, are nothing compared to the knowledge of blending the terroirs. So you're back to the fact that it's not only factual experience and knowledge of hard things, of concrete things like terroir, it's also the culture again and the philosophy of going beyond just making some wine.
Knowing your reserve wines.
And the reserve wine is an excellent example. Exactly. I don't know the other regions, and I can't speak for them, but I never heard about a sustainable plan for the whole region like the one Champagne has, which is not only covering viticulture and winemaking, but all the dimensions of Champagne making and selling and shipping. We did interact with the glass makers, and this interaction ended up with a lighter bottle, reducing the carbon footprint of every bottle by 15%. And this is not a winemaking thing. We didn't say, oh, it's the responsibility of the glass producers. We said, we want to be responsible of the sustainability of the region. Therefore, we will go as far as interacting with producers of everything that is around the wine. So as far as I know, we're leading region in terms of sustainable development. We're covering everything from vine to shipment. We've started in the year 2000 by assessing the carbon footprint, and today we are showing results while many regions and many industries are showing either plans or projects.